It looks like people have joined who want to join. I'm sure more people will come in. Welcome everyone to our ninth grade parent networking meeting. It's our first one of the year. And my name is Patty Zaccolillo. I'm one of your ninth grade networking co-chairs, along with Meg Saunders, my partner in crime. And we will be bringing to you several of these types of events throughout the year. Hopefully the next one can be in person. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. This one is entitled Welcome to High School. And we're very lucky to have a panel of very distinguished guests who are going to teach you all about what you need to know as freshman parents as you transition to the high school. So we have Ari Rothman, who is your ninth grade principal. We have, of course, Bill Egan, who is our main principal here at New Canaan High School. Cynthia Rivera from the counselor's office. Karen Kelly, who is on the PFA board. And then we also have Betsy, and I hope I pronounced her name correctly, Imbrogno, from the school nurse's office. My name always gets butchered too, so I'm kind of sensitive to that. But we welcome you all. We hope that you find this very informative. Please use the chat to ask questions, the Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can throughout the program. And I'm going to pass it on to our principal, Bill Egan.
Well, thank you, Patty. Honestly, I just want to thank all of our parents and our PFA, because truly they really help create an amazing culture here at the school. We're very fortunate to have, I've always said, the most amazing kids in the state, really maybe in the country. And that starts at home. And, I truly think we have an amazing community, and it comes through in the schools. A little bit about the high school. First, I guess I'll talk a little bit about our vision before I turn it over to Mr. Rothman, who's going to lead us through this presentation. But, truly, we want a school that it's a sense of community where our parents want to send their kids, where students want to come and learn and be a part of the New Canaan High School community, where all of our employees feel respected, valued, and always want to do what's in the best interest of students. There are really two key things that I've asked for kids, and that's to always do their personal best, learn from challenges that you face. No one ever looks back in life and says, that they wish they always give their best effort with things, and the other thing is to be kind and compassionate to everyone you meet. Life is challenging. COVID has taught us that. But no one's ever really looked back at life and said, geez, I treated people worse, so treat people with kindness and compassion in every aspect of everything that you do here at the school. And I think that goes a long way to getting set up for success here at the high school. And obviously graduation is our last day, as you guys are coming in now as freshmen. But this really is a special place. You're going to learn a little bit about the high school. We have some new changes this year that Mr. Rothman's going to take you through. I may pop on throughout this presentation, but I just wanted to thank you all for being a part of New Canaan High School and allowing us to be a part of your kids' lives. We truly value every second that we spend with kids, and I just want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of their experience. So at this point, Mr. Rothman, I will turn it over to you. Who's going to take us through the high school, and I hope you all learn a lot. And my door is always open. Feel free to reach out to me if you need something, and I'll always get back to you. So thank you, and I really hope that you're enjoying your start to freshman year, and you'll learn a lot through this webinar today. So again, I wish we were in person, but I think you'll find today productive. Mr. Rothman, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Bill. Hi, I just wanted to welcome everyone, and once again we're going to run through a bunch of slides here and give you a general overview of life at the high school and types of things that your kids will experience and resources available to them and to you. And this is going to be, as I said before, as we prepared this, formally informal. So we will collect questions, chats as we go along. So here's some general information. This is our schedule. It is an 8-day schedule. The block schedule is arranged so that periods 1 through 4 meet one day, the next day periods 5 through 8. The idea behind that is both from an instructional standpoint, having more time in each class, but also cutting in half, if you will, a student's schedule. So not all classes meet on the same day. Research and our experience has found that this really lowers the pressure on kids. It's homework at most for 4 classes on a given day. And the rotating schedule allows classes to meet throughout. What you have here is a model of a typical freshman schedule. If you take a moment and look at it, you'll see classes meet over the course of the 8 days at different times. That third block of the day between 10:30 and 12:30 is when we do lunch shifts. I'll show you those in a minute. On this schedule, the areas that are not shaded in with a class, we've assigned study halls for freshmen. And the idea is it is a time for kids to do some work, perhaps get some extra help as well, but it's structured time. And it is assigned and it is a class on their schedule. In terms of and this should be available, obviously, through PowerSchool. This is called the matrix view schedule. Now, there's often questions about lunch. So here is our lunch schedule, which is, I think, as complicated as we can make it. We have 1,300 kids. We can't have them all in the cafeteria, obviously. So, and that even is before COVID. So we have, over the course of that 2-hour block, 4 lunch shifts. It's by the class that the kid has at that period. So if a kid has a science class, they take first lunch. We mix it up, we change it each quarter. And it's complicated, but at the same time, we get into routines for it. We may, on occasion, as we've already done this year, shuffle things around if we find that one lunch is too big and others are too small. Again, to allow kids to move through the lunch line as quickly as possible, but also to give them time to relax and enjoy their lunch and, hang out. We use outdoor spaces as much as possible, weather permitting. Again, the idea is to spread kids out, give them an opportunity to relax and enjoy their lunch. The one thing that becomes an issue, particularly for freshmen, is if they have half block classes, and I'm going to go back to show you what I mean. If you notice over here on day B, first period, there's science and then health. Science, we have an additional small piece twice a cycle. If you move down day B, you would notice 7-1 and 7-2 meets during the lunch block. If on the other days when there are full classes, it's wherever that department has lunch. For kids with half block classes, it's always going to be fourth lunch. That's just easiest. And that time is built in. If you look at day F, where they have science, the first half of the lunch period, and then health or physical education, health is first semester, phys ed is second semester, they will take fourth lunch. So the easy way to think about this is if it's a full period class, it's wherever the department is. And if it's any pieces of a block, it's always fourth lunch. It's that simple. At least I think it's simple.
Are you, if they have a study hall during the lunch block, what's the?
Same thing, fourth lunch.
Fourth lunch,
Yeah.
okay.
And they may have 2 study halls if they have the whole period unassigned, and that's where we are this semester. All right, some general information about school. No phones in class unless the teacher is specifically instructing kids. We want them to focus. We want them to pay attention and participate in class. They all have their devices. That's part of instruction and learning. Homework. A few general things. Should be posted no later than 3 p.m. And again, if it's due the next day, assignment should be handed in. We don't want kids staying up. We know kids are involved in a lot of activities and don't usually get home and start their homework until after dinner. but we really want kids to finish their work and get a good night's sleep. We also ask teachers, and this is an ongoing discussion. We ask teachers to keep it to about 25 to 30 minutes on average per class. That averages out to about 2 hours of work a night. All the research says that after 2 hours, kids are just not learning that much. So it really matters that the teacher explain, and we're working on this. The teacher explain how long it should take. The kid does, and again, we ask parents to cut it off if it runs really, really long, but then the feedback to the teacher. As a teacher, I may think this only should take 25, 30 minutes. But if a lot of my students are telling me it's longer, that helps me calibrate and get a sense of what is a reasonable assignment per night. So that discussion is ongoing, and it's very, very important for the kids to give the teachers feedback. The other piece is, if a kid is spending a disproportionate amount of time on homework, that should signal the kid to go and meet with the teacher and go over things. All right. This learning curve works from both ends. Teachers want to work with the kids in a way that is best for them, but individual kids should help the teacher understand what additional pieces they need. There's never an issue about meeting with a teacher, going over work if what goes on in class isn't sufficient for that kid. That's a big difference in middle schools and high schools in general. There is a team around a kid, which Cindy will go into later on, but we still need the kid to tell us what they need as the year progresses. So it's an ongoing collaboration between the kid and her teachers. All right. Schoology and ClassLink. Let me jump ahead and then I'll come back. ClassLink. Oh, and then one last thing. Until further notice, we still have to maintain, reasonable accommodations for safety and for everyone's health. Kids have to wear their masks properly in the building. It really matters. Okay. There are mask breaks all the time. Once they're outside, fine. We ask them not to congregate in groups, to basically, be aware and be safe. And again, if they don't come to school, we'll go into more detail later on when, Betsy talks about the nurse's office and general health guidelines. But again, if you're sick, stay home. There is never going to be a situation where a kid will fall behind because they are home because they don't feel well. All right. It's more important that they really take care of themselves and that parents really keep on top of this and call into the attendance office and excuse the absence if that's the case. Okay. This year we launched ClassLink. ClassLink is an app that really is one-stop access for all the different platforms and applications that our students would use. We have this for the staff as well. As you notice, they can bring this up on their phone. They can access all the different things they would need, most particularly Schoology. Okay, so this is basically, think of it as a platform through which students can access all of the things they will need in their school day in terms of technology, applications, and other instructional and learning platforms. We introduced it this year for everybody. There was a brief introduction in the beginning. We're working through and training everyone on how to use this. Okay. The most important piece, though, within this is Schoology. Oh, 1 second. There's Schoology. Okay. Schoology is a learning platform introduced a couple of years ago, and we've really gotten to a point where we ask all teachers to post their work through Schoology. Students can access their teachers, the class web pages that have class Schoology pages that have resources available to them. It's not just instruction, it helps in terms of following up, learning more. And it should be an opportunity, as you notice on the right-hand side, for students to access and see all the work that they have to do. So it's a learning management system. And we as a staff are working to really have everything accessible through there. Again, much like ClassLink, Schoology exists to help sort of funnel all the information that comes at kids, but also to help them manage their work. And again, this is an ongoing process. The high school website, needless to say, every bit of information people need is there. There's school information, it has everything from calendars, as you see, teacher sites. There is a link to co-curricular activities. And again, I'll go into more detail there, but that is also an essential piece. While Bill will send out a weekly update, and I know the PFA, when they'll go into more detail later on, have their monthly ramograms, the high school website is the depository, if you will, for all the information. And again, it's important. Expectations for students, expectations for parents, forms you will need for different things. And again, as you notice there on the upper left-hand side, there's also a link to ClassLink. Again, access to all the different places that a kid will need to access over the course of the school day. Class advisors, we have a student coalition, which is our student government. Basically, I look at things this way, and I'll go into more detail when we talk about co-curriculars. We want every kid to be part of our school community, not just a student here. We want every kid to take electives that they find enjoyable, that pique interests, but we also have a good, solid opportunity for all kids at all grade levels to get involved in school improvement, get involved in class activities, build community. The class of 2025, the advisors are Veronica Estacio and Bill Doyle. Veronica is a member of the World Language Department. Bill's a math teacher. There are Wednesday afternoon meetings. And again, they should listen and get involved as we move into October and start looking at some homecoming activities. It's an opportunity for, again, kids to get involved. We've recently elected freshman class officers, but there's endless opportunities through the Student Coalition. Other opportunities, clubs. Everybody knows we have a huge and extensive interscholastic athletics program. I think over the course of a year, 2/3, if not 3/4 of our kids get involved in at least one sport. We also have a very, very vibrant theater program as well. For anything else, we have our co-curricular program, our clubs, our activities. Here at the high school, we want a kid to pursue interests. We have a fluid list of about 40 to 50 clubs over the course of a year. And they really begin with one kid having an interest. And that's really it. I oversee that program with a ton of staff advisors. And really what it is we want kids to have some fun. We want kids to pursue interests outside the curriculum. We have an art club that allows kids to even expand beyond their art class and to try different things. It's an ongoing list. I update it every month. And right now in the beginning of the year, we're in the process of sort of finalizing which clubs are still active from last year, which ones are new, so on and so forth. At the end of the first month of school every year, we do a club fair. What we've done in the past is bring in the 9th graders one part of a period, the 10th graders and new students another part of a period in the cafeteria, and hold this massive fair, which makes Grand Central Station at the peak commuter time seem empty. Obviously, last year we couldn't do it, so we switched to a virtual club fair. And what that is each of the activities, each of the groups puts together a small introductory video. And that link becomes attached to the club listing. We're going to have to do it again this year. The freshman class is sizable. The sophomore class is sizable. I think it would be, at this point, not the best thing to bring everybody together again in the cafeteria. So we're going to do it virtually one more time. And what I expect to be able to do is send out a link to an updated club fair listing, if you will, of all the clubs, along with the links to the specific videos introducing the clubs, all the contact information for kids to get involved. And again, the one thing I stress, particularly to parents, and it's sort of a given around the school, is if there's an area of interest that is not currently a club, we can start a club. It's really that simple. We want kids to be part of the community, want kids to contribute and feel confident about something. And that's really a nice way also to do some social engineering for kids to get to know each other outside of class. So between athletics, theater, which runs productions all year long, including an underclass musical, and our clubs, we provide, I think, a lot of opportunities for kids to get involved in the school community, pursue interests, have some fun, and just feel good about something in addition to classes. Okay? Now I'm going to turn it over to our PFA people. Talk about how parents can get involved.
Thanks so much, Ari. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Kelly, and I'm the VP of Education. On behalf of the PFA board this year, on behalf of our co-presidents, Courtney Langford and Jerry Moore, and our entire PFA board, I wanted to welcome all of you to New Canaan High School. Please feel free to reach out to any of us on the board for volunteer opportunities and questions that you might have at any time. All of our names are listed on the website. And if you can please go to the website that Ari mentioned, we are under parents, and then there's a drop down to the PFA. It lists all the activities and upcoming events at New Canaan High School. It lists them by calendar view, as well as a list of events for the entire year. And we encourage everybody to join the PFA to support all of the programs. And you'll also gain access to the online directory. It's easy to do, and it really only takes a few minutes. We also have, there are a couple of volunteers who spent hours and hours volunteering during the summer to revamp our monthly rammogram, as well as weekly rammograms that you'll see. The website has been revised, so it's very clear and easy to see all of the information. Our social media is also kept very up to date and has the key dates on it as well, from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find all of the social media addresses on the website as well under the Connect With Us header. So again, any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we're happy to answer them. And if you think of something after, please feel free to reach out to anyone on the board. Thanks so much.
All right. So, as I mentioned before, you know, our kids have a rich school day. Many, if not all, I hope, are involved in something co-curricular, either connected to the school or in the community. But, you know, again, there is a team that exists behind every kid. And you know, it's important that, again, this is a big difference, I think, with high schools in general. We want the connection between the student and the teacher to be primary. If a kid needs help, should go to the teacher. That really is important. However, the person who is sort of both behind the scenes and in front, if you will, who really is the head of the team for that student, is the school counselor. And I say this both as a parent, but also as an administrator. We have the finest school counseling staff around. And I will now turn it over to Cindy, who is a director of school counseling, to explain not just the role of the school counselor, but also the other supports and people who are on a kid's team. Cindy?
Thank you, Ari. Welcome, everybody. Yes, we're hoping every student is super successful here and happy, but there are bumps in the road at times, and that's where the counselor comes in. I know we talked to many of you on orientation night or open house about the role of the counselor, but we will be with your child for 4 years, and we look at both the personal, the academic, and look at career and post-high school planning with them over the 4 years. So we'll be working with your children going forward every year, offering programs and getting to know them and helping them to get to know themselves as learners and as future citizens in our community. So there are 8 counselors. There's 2 psychologists and 2 social workers also in our suite. They tend to work with kids who have more significant issues, that have learning issues, or may have other personal issues that take a little more time than what the counselor can offer. Counselor offers ongoing counseling to students, but psychologists and social workers might do a little bit more of that. We typically have a kids in crisis teen talk counselor. Right now, we're in the middle of hiring that person. So when they are here, you will hear about them. And of course, we have the health office, school resource officer, and as Ari said, the grade level administrator. So if your child is starting to struggle in a classroom or having some issues with the teacher, the first thing they should do, as Ari said, is to speak to the teacher, talk to them and see what kinds of to get help if they're not understanding what a teacher wants them to do or what the expectations are. At the first sign of difficulty, we always ask kids, they come in, or we'll hear from a parent saying, we have to change them. They're not understanding. And we don't want kids to move that fast. We want them to struggle through, not struggle, but work through a problem, or work with the teacher, see if they can really dig in and get a sense of what the issues are. So we'll ask the students to go back and talk with their teacher. If they're still, if you're feeling your student is still not understanding, it's perfectly appropriate for you to also email the teacher and say, my child is feeling this way in your class, or not understanding this. What do you see? What is to get the side of the teacher? What's the perspective from the teacher side as to what may be the issues with the students? So that is something that we really want you to work through with your children. And if they are having continue to have difficulty, certainly reach out to the counselor so we know, and perhaps we can help assist in that. We often need to talk with kids just in giving them the words of how to ask or how to understand what a teacher's message is to them. Oftentimes, particularly for freshmen, we'll hear, well, they just aren't teaching. And oftentimes what that means is the teacher wants them to work it out themselves first before they give them the answer. So you'll see a lot of that back and forth going on, where the teacher's pushing them to work on their own a little bit. And the student feeling like they're lost and need to find the words to ask for help. And we're very good about working with them. One of the other things that you will have access to is Power School. And Ari, that's where teachers, I think, are still posting grades and homework and giving you the opportunity to see if homework is missing, or when they take an assessment, did they do well or not on that? So I always encourage parents to not just look at where the GPA is or the overall grade average, because that average is changing daily at this point. As they could have not done a homework assignment and gotten a 0, and it looks like they're failing the class, when in fact it's just an assignment they haven't turned in yet, and they will be turning it in. So it's important to dig in, click on those classes and those grades to see what the issues are, so you can help your child without just worrying about what the grade average is. That's what seems to scare the kids the most to begin with. And I also get calls from parents, but when you dig in, you realize there's very little in the portal just yet. I mean, we're just in the third week of school. There wouldn't be a whole lot there yet, but that's a good place for you to monitor grades and see how students are doing and see where their homework fits on things.
Can I jump in 1 second?
Sure.
I have to give, the monitoring piece is slippery. I did not put up a slide of what Power School looks like, and I recognize I have to add that next time I do this. But monitoring can turn into a problem.
Into stalking.
Well, again, I always tell people that Power School is only accurate at the end of a quarter or a semester.
Right.
Teachers will enter grades as they are done. We ask teachers to update it within, obviously, a week or two of when everything is handed in. And it's a moving target because teachers may play with the averages at the end of a semester based on what they cover, so on and so forth. So it's okay to check Power School to see if assignments are done or if they need to be done. But please, the last thing we want is to have a level of monitoring that only amps up the anxiety about progress. One of the things that really should be so self-evident in this whole discussion is high school is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a 4-year learning curve, and freshman year is even a greater learning curve. The process by which a kid acclimates him or herself, the process by which they learn how to be an independent student varies for every different kid. So keep track that they're on top of their work, but don't please perseverate about whether or not they're going to get into college based on where their grades are right now in 9th grade. It really is a long discussion, a long process, and we as the adults around kids need to be the ones who keep them grounded and not hyper focused on the future. I'm sorry,
I agree.
my one pep talk on that.
Yeah, and I agree because often kids are the ones who are panicking over their grades because they, see it change and see that it's bad and then they're worrying about it. So we really, as parents, we implore that you to keep them calm on all of this and know that usually, those grades are not what you should be looking at. It's the individual assessments, quizzes, and homework progress that's important. So good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other supports we have in the school, we have a writing center, which some kids are assigned based on writing portfolios from last year or assessments from last year. They may be assigned writing center, but that is sort of the first half of the blocks. The second half of the block tends to be a drop-in for all students every period. So if they have time where they need, and even they could even try the first half if available, but there might be some instruction going on. But if a student has a history, an English, a science project where they need help with structuring an essay or a writing prompt, that's a great place to go and get some assistance. And they'll be using that throughout their 4 years. So that's a great option. We have Math Center assigned to some students who have typically struggled in math. So that would be an assigned class, but that is not a drop-in center this year. But we're looking at ways for kids to get extra help in math as well. If they are in an ACES support class of some kind, they can access the Math Center through that. ACES is a support class for students with organizational issues. So there's a number of places where kids can get extra help, and teachers have posted when students can come and also ask for extra help. So they should be taking advantage of that as well. Anything else? I'm back to you, Ari.
All righty. All right. And again, putting in a plug for myself, I would say that as the administrator for your students, unless I, win Powerball or my agent calls, I'll be with them for 4 years. And I don't want to be someone who is only viewed as disciplining them. I work with the counselors in terms of ensuring and doing everything possible that your kid is the most successful he or she can be. So please feel free to reach out with questions. I'd much rather you ask questions than you worry about something or go by sort of what the gossip is or the chatter is around town, because often that is not accurate. So feel free to reach out to any of us. Okay. And now I'm going to turn it over to the effervescent Nurse Betsy, who will speak about general health stuff.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Mr. Rothman. Hi, everyone. I'm Betsy Imbrogno. I'm one of 3 school nurses here at the high school. I'm joined by Kim McNamara, who is currently our long-term sub for Nurse Karina Giangos, who just had a baby. And of course, our district nursing supervisor, Janet Reed, is also here in the high school. But welcome. We've gotten to know many of your students already. It's great to meet some new faces, and we certainly want everyone feeling welcome to come to the nurse's office this year. And we are here to support your kids every step of the way. They will be here for 4 years, so we'll be with them. And please call us, email us with any concerns. A big thing we want you guys to know is please communicate if your child has any injuries or chronic health illnesses, if they take a medication that you'd like to leave here in the nurse's office, if they ever need it and forget to take it in the morning before coming to school. That is something that we offer. And as Mr. Rothman had mentioned before, if you go on the high school website, there is a link to the nurse's office that has all the forms that you will need, whether it's for your child's physical, medication forms, if you need to provide those. If your child has any allergies, that's super important for us to be aware of that. And if they have a need for an EpiPen. So I'm sure you've heard this every year your child has been in school, but we do require an updated form every year. And just to give us an update, some kids grow out of allergies, asthma, but they certainly can self-carry, as you can see on the screen, insulin, if they're diabetic, if they have a pump, an inhaler for their asthma, and an EpiPen. But in order to do so, we do need a form just with the doctor's signature and your signature, just giving us the okay that they can carry that in their backpack. We do ask the kids not to carry any medications, even if they're herbal remedies, gummies. We've seen a wide variety of medications, if you will, but we just ask that the kids don't carry that on them. So if they do come to the nurse's office, we know how to help them. If they have a headache or if they're nauseous, maybe that's something important for us to know, so we don't double up on Advil, if you will, if they've already taken it at home. So just an important tip there. Also, for your kids who are now in 9th grade, there's the state requirement for an exam. So you have all year long to submit that. So if you normally get your child's physical done, on their birthday, let's say their birthday is in February, you have, until June to submit that form. But the sooner the better. And I'm a parent as well, so the sooner you can submit it, it's one thing off your plate, and you won't receive any emails from us, come May and June. If there's anything, please reach out anytime. We keep your child's health information confidential. And last but not least, if they're not feeling well during the school day, they do need to come to the nurse's office. We'll give you a call. We'll excuse them for the rest of the day. And as you know, there's no remote learning option right now. They will be excused for the rest of the day for illness. So certainly they won't be penalized in any way, and we'll take care of the attendance piece of it. But they do need to come to the nurse's office in order to get excused for the day if they're not feeling well in school.
Let me speak also to the attendance. High schools, by nature of granting credit towards a high school diploma, attendance matters. We want kids present. We want kids learning. We want kids involved in the learning process directly. We also are responsible for your kid throughout the school day. So that's why being in class, being on time matters. The attendance does count. Kids can lose credit in a class, even if they pass the class, can lose credit if they are absent too often. And the student handbook and all the information online explains our attendance policy. The last point on this slide that Betsy was talking about is a kid should not just leave school if they're feeling sick. We want them to go to the nurse. The nurse will be in a position to send them home if that's what's needed. Even if a kid calls a parent and says, I don't feel well, come pick me up. We still are responsible for your kid unless you sign them out through the nurse's office. So again, please understand, this is for your kid's safety and our responsibility for your kid's safety. It's really, really important, okay? I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Mr. Rothman, if I can say one more thing.
Absolutely.
I just thought too, and if your child isn't feeling well in the morning, certainly just let them stay home. You can call attendance, you can call us in the nurse's office and just keep them home. It's just not worth it until they're feeling better for at least, they're asymptomatic for at least 24 hours before they return. That would be great. So thank you. And I hope they have a great ninth grade this year, and please reach out anytime.
Betsy, before you go, there are a couple questions in the Q&A that I think
Okay.
you could probably answer very quickly. A couple about end of the year birthdays. So if you have a June birthday, would you want the June 2021 physical or wait?
You can submit that. That will be
Suffice.
okay. That will suffice. Thank you.
And then someone else has a question about if they have a March birthday. I think that's fine. They just do the March physical and then submit it in March or.
In March of 2022, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let me just run through some of these things. I think it's basically it. The question has been answered about March. If we submitted health forms for fall athletics, do we also need to give a copy to the nurse's office?
So that's a good question. We do, any physicals that go to the athletics office comes directly to the nurse's office, and we file that in your child's medical record here in school. So it's not necessary to provide 2 copies.
Okay, good. We did that with the March. If a student has to enroll in a sports activity and have us submit the health form for the activity, but the physical will only be in February, is it still okay to submit the health form? I think that's
Yes.
been answered. Okay, and lastly, there was a question of how many kids are in the freshman class. I want to say about 360, probably.
I think a little less than that, but between 340, 350, something like that. Yeah.
All right, it's a lot of kids. So
Yeah.
if we submitted health form, I think we did that. Okay. Any other questions? Let me see if there's any other questions.
Were there any questions that were personally answered that we think we should bring to the whole community here?
Here we go. 1 second. Can students go virtual if they stay home sick? No. If a student, if they're sick, they should relax. They should take care of themselves. And they'll be back the next day or so. The remote option is not available. And again, if we have to quarantine a kid, that's a different story. But at the same time, if a kid does not feel well and is staying home, they really should relax and take care of themselves and recuperate so they can come back to school. So no, we do not. We're not doing the virtual on a day-to-day basis. Are there any other questions? Anything from the panel that you think we didn't cover?
Not anything that you didn't cover. I mean, Bill's typing a response now, but I know there have been a couple of, I've seen it on Facebook too, questions about what's going on with homecoming. You may not be able to answer that yet.
No, we can. I believe it's October 23rd is the homecoming Saturday. There'll be a game in the stadium. There'll be, we're not going to be able to do a homecoming dance. because that has in the past been upwards of 1,000 kids. And we just can't do that right now. So we're planning not to do the homecoming dance. However, the day before, Friday, the 22nd, I think it is, we will do a pep rally in the stadium at the end of the school day, and then a bonfire that night. Again, those are outdoor activities. Information will come from Student Coalition and from the class offices about what we call banner night, which is a small little thing that different classes put together banners and things in our cafeteria, but that information will come. The Student Coalition is also meeting and coming up with the different theme days for homecoming week. So we're going to do most everything we typically do, except the dance at this point.
Honestly, logistically, we'll meet with the kids. I think having a dance outdoors would be tough at this point.
Yeah.
They asked about that as far as the planning purposes. We don't have a tent that would access that size in case of inclement weather. So we're going to talk to the kids. I'm going to go to their Stuco meeting on Wednesday, but I just think that might be logistically tough.
The question came about the club fair outside. I would love to be able to do that, but that all falls apart under weather, you know, and it's not something that can easily be moved inside. We did have fairly good success last year with the virtual club fair, and I would love to do an in-person one, just given the scope of it. It's the same discussion about the homecoming dance. It's logistically a lot of people in a space, and it all falls apart and everybody's work goes out the window if the weather's not right. So we just can't plan on something that size being outdoors only.
So Ari, just to add, so for students wanting to get involved in clubs, the process will be that they'll look at a video that the club will advertise, and then will clubs still meet in person?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the difference between a club meeting of however many kids is one thing. I mean, we have 20 kids in a class, you know, in a classroom. So that can happen. The club fair, as it was set up, is basically 2 kids from each club. So right there, I think we currently have 35 or 40 clubs, and it's an ever-growing list. So that would be, you know, tables in the center, and then we have 300 and something freshmen, 300 and something sophomores plus new students. You know, that's why the in-person isn't realistic at this point.
Okay, so if freshman parents want to encourage their kids to look at the list, they can look online.
Absolutely.
They can do it, and then they can sign up for several clubs and then go to them, see what they like. And
Yeah.
great.
The list will have all the contact information, student leaders and advisors. Everybody has the same @NCPS, you know, email. There's constantly announcements every single day and posters around the building as things get started. This first month is really sort of the setting up period. We're checking what clubs are still active. We're checking, I'm meeting with kids regularly about new clubs. And the club fair is a starting point. There will be clubs that will form throughout the year. And so what happens is there's constantly announcements, there's constantly things being sent out and announced about clubs, club meetings, as well as that club listing, which will have the links to the videos. That'll be posted on, it's posted on the high school website. What's on there right now is the end of last year. I'm going to have the new one up there by the beginning of October in a couple of weeks. And then we update it regularly. But it's a fluid list. If kids are no longer interested, fine. The club goes by the wayside. If kids want to try something new, we start new clubs. So it's an ongoing process. Anything else? See what else. Might not have it. Okay. I think that's it right now.
Yeah, looks like everybody answered all their questions. So thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you, everybody.
again, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the PFA for setting this up. You know, be aware, folks, we're here. If you have questions, ask. And we'll do what's best for your kid with your kid. All right. Thank you, everyone. And take care. This whole presentation will be available. I guess we'll send it to the PFA website and they'll have it available afterwards. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.